What's up, guys? Welcome to Gamescript. We're breaking down the Super Bowl for DraftKings Showdown lineups, and we got the New England Patriots versus Seattle Seahawks, and the Seahawks are favorites in this one. But can the Patriots pull off the upset? I'm going to dig into it right after this.
Our viewers and subscribers are crushing it thanks to SportNuggets.com's premium content. On our live show Gamescript, we've built multiple showdown winning lineups recently, delivering thousands in winnings straight to our viewers. Our premium members have taken it to the next level, absolutely dominating leaderboards with our exclusive core plays and insights. Our own PumaCom smashed Week 17's weekend slates, banking over $79,000 in contest winnings. Our NBA cores have been hitting recently too. Shout out to C. Hammond, who hit for $2,250. Discord member Mega Man hit for $2,000 in the NBA streets too. New Sport Nuggets contributor Sick Hemi continued his hot streak with a $4,000 win, and Camcar16 shipped an MMA for $12,600. This success comes from our unique narrative-driven Gamescript projections and curated news aggregation, tools designed to streamline your research, uncover hidden gems, and give you the edge in fantasy and betting contests. Join the winners today. Sign up for premium access at SportNuggets.com and start building your own massive paydays.
What's up, guys? Simon Edwards at PumaCom here with Heat Seeker Sports, and you're watching Gamescript. We're looking at the Super Bowl, and we got the New England Patriots versus Seattle Seahawks. We got a 45.5-point total, with Seattle as 4.5-point favorites in this one. And it's a game where all the news, all the analysis seems to think that Seattle has this one hands down, and the Patriots don't really stand a chance. And those are the type of situations where we like to look at the opposite of that and try to figure out a way where the Patriots can win this Super Bowl and build our lineups around that. So we're facing 20% of the field instead of 80% of the field. So I'm going to get into that in a second. Make sure to hit that like button. Get me to 100 likes. I'll put my favorite captain in the comments section as we get closer to lock. And make sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to get up to 2,800 subscribers. I need about 100 left to get there. So help me get there by the time we hit the Super Bowl. I'm going to try to put up maybe one more show before the big game arrives. So make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can get an alert for when that show comes out. Make sure to sign up also, SportNuggets.com. We're going to need to monitor SportNuggets.com because we got news still waiting on as far as injuries and eligibility for some of these players that could make this game interesting. We got a few injuries, mainly on the defense that we're monitoring. Robert Spillane is a big one. We'll check out his status right now. I haven't checked it in a little bit. So Robert Spillane is one of the key run defenders on the Patriots. So we're looking to see what his status is. If he's out, that's going to be a significant upgrade for guys like Kenneth Walker and George Halani. So just waiting for that to load here on SportNuggets.com. What I do with this site is I basically do an aggregate of all the local podcasts and local beat writers who follow these teams, and I'm trying to get a good local representation of nuggets for individual players, because nobody knows their team better than a local beat writer or a local fan podcast or something like that, where they're able to analyze these teams on a micro level and break them down on a daily basis. There's no one more familiar with these teams. Nobody on the national media, nobody on a fantasy sports advice site are going to know their individual teams better than the people who cover them on a regular basis. So right now, Robert Spillane dealing with injury, but optimistic for Sunday. That's good. Confident to play despite ankle injury. So we just got to keep monitoring this and wait till we get certainty in that. You can do that by looking up the player name over here in the search. We'll check you out next with, let's go with, who else are we looking at for an injury here? Oh, we had Iluane, who just, let's see. See, I got to figure out how to spell the last name here. He just came onto the injury report with an injury this past week. So we never want to see that when we're looking for these guys. When we're looking for these guys, like heading into a big game, he's a big part of their secondary and why they've been so successful in the pass game. And he's their nickel back basically. Primary slot coverage would go through Emenwari, I believe. Suffers a low ankle sprain, but expected to play in the Super Bowl. So he's going to be banged up. That's according to Adam Schefter. Seahawks head coach Mike McDonald told reporters that Emenwari suffered a low ankle sprain Wednesday, but he's confident that he will play in Sunday's Super Bowl. So, pretty big news there that we're monitoring. We want to make sure that Emenwari is going to be playing for those, like those Seahawks win type of game scripts and stuff like that. If he's out, that's going to give us an advantage with some of these Pats, like the Stephon Diggs, runs a lot of his routes in the slot. We got Demario Douglas. It would impact probably the passing game for running back. So Ramondre Stevenson. There's a lot that goes into that. So definitely monitor that news and keep an eye over on sportnuggets.com. Also, you want to sign up for sportnuggets.com. We do offer a weekly membership. So if you sign up now, you can get all the premium Super Bowl content that I'm putting out. I did a write-up the other day, and it's under $20 just to sign up for the week. So you get the Super Bowl write-up with that. You're going to get the core plays when we get closer to lock. You'll get the premium Discord access. You're going to want to get in there for the premium Discord access. We got guys that are putting core plays in the Discord for NBA, and Spread a Stare contributor along with Sick Hemi. Those guys have been putting in core plays on a regular basis, but Spread a Stare also contributes with NBA and NFL articles, and he's got one up for prop bets for the NFL. So make sure to take advantage of that. Get in that premium Discord if you're not already and you're a member. And also we'll be putting the premium insights up on sportnuggets.com as well, where we take a look at the most important nuggets that are coming through our feed and write a little bit of analyst insight into that. So make sure to check out sportnuggets.com. Sign up for that premium membership, weekly membership, to get that Super Bowl access. It's under $20. You can't really go wrong. All right, guys, so let's take a look at this matchup. First, I want to go to the depth charts, and we're going to take a look at what the situation is with the additional injuries. We got Sam Darnold. He's had that oblique injury for the past few weeks. Hasn't affected him. He had a great game last week against the Rams, or 2 weeks ago against the Rams. So it hasn't impacted him from a performance perspective. We got Zach Charbonnet, who's on IR. That's helped to elevate George Holani into a significant role in this offense. And Holani is going to be in a interesting situation this week with the Patriots being vulnerable to receiving running backs. And that's where we see Holani and Kenneth Walker make an impact in the passing game here for the Seahawks. We got Torrey Horton is on IR still. Rashid Shaheed's going to be interesting this week. We got Charles Cross is questionable. That's one that we want to keep an eye on. That's the left tackle for the Seahawks. We want to make sure that they have their offensive line, fully operational, like the Death Star. And we also have, like some weakness on this offensive line already with a couple rookies on it. That's going to make them vulnerable to the Patriots pass rush there. So significant situation there. As far as the injuries on the defense, we got Nick Emenwari that we're worried about. We got to keep an eye on him. And that's the primary one. There's not a whole bunch of injuries there on the defense for the Seattle Seahawks. Let's take a look at the Patriots real quick too, while we're at it. All right, so we got no one too significant here on the offense. Very similar situation with the offensive line for the Patriots. Will Campbell, in week 18, he has been very vulnerable on the left tackle. The Patriots have allowed a ton of sacks, interceptions, and fumbles, just about everything bad that you can think of in these past 3 matchups that they've had against top 5, top 10 defenses in the playoffs. And now they got the best defense in the league against the Seahawks. So that's going to be significant for them. And then on their defense, we got to be concerned about Harold Landry and Robert Spillane. Spillane in particular, a big role on that run defense. So Spillane, if he's out, then that's going to be a big upgrade for Kenneth Walker and George Halani. So something to keep in mind here with all these injuries that we're watching out for this week. All right, so let's go back over to DraftKings. Going to take a look at these players. Like I said, we got what do we have? We got a 45.5 point total with Seattle's 4.5 point favorites. Smith-Njigba is clearly the best floor on the slate. Smith-Njigba, the lowest he's gotten is that 4.3 points versus Minnesota. Minnesota is a heavy blitzing team with probably one of the best defenses in the league. And that's the only team that he's really struggled against. Every other team he's scored double-digit points against. With this salary, 17.4 in the captain, he's going to need to have one of these 34-point games off, unless just absolutely everybody just shits the bed in this one, and Jackson Smith-Njigba is the only one to score like 14 points or something like that. But it's going to take a lot for him to be the optimal captain in this one. Let's see. We got Drake Maye. Drake Maye is in a situation where he has struggled against these defenses. Lots been made out of the easy schedule that the Patriots face throughout the season, and you can kind of see it here. You look at the list of quarterbacks that they faced, and there's a bunch of rookies, backups, and teams with fired coaches. So they have not faced a very good. Any very good teams during the regular season, except for Buffalo. And a lot's been made out of the way that Buffalo defended the Patriots. Warren Sharp has kind of cheerleading that, talking about how they've been using they used cover 6 against the Patriots, had some success with it, and then all these teams coming in after that game followed suit, and they were running cover 6 against it. So, if you're taking the Seattle side, I think that makes a lot of sense. If you are taking the Patriots side of this game, then that makes a lot of sense to fade that type of thinking and hope that the masses latch onto it and it ends up being just a big nothing burger. But he was his least efficient against cover 6 this season. So Seattle uses cover 6 at a high rate already, and they don't need to adjust to Drake Maye. So, it's possible that when they're scheming up this game, that they're going to be coming up with a game plan to beat in cover 6 anyways. And it has to do, I was listening to one local podcast, Evan Lazar's podcast, the Catch 22 or something like that. Really good analysis in that podcast. They do a lot of X's and O's type stuff. And one of the things that they were talking about was they had a theory that the cover 6 issues has something to do with Drake Maye's reads through progressions and how it kind of puts them off on those reads through progressions. But if they're preparing for that in practice and they're actively working on a solution to that, you can imagine that the Patriots aren't going to be like too heavily impacted just because of a cover 6 scheme against them. So we'll see what happens there, but like that's a take that you guys can latch on to if you want to go in the Patriots direction. Check out that podcast I mentioned too. It's a pretty good one if you're looking to to get a lot of film type thinking from those guys. All right, Sam Darnold is, this is a rematch of the team that he saw ghosts against back when he was a Jets quarterback. He's well past those days, and he had his hero game last week against the Rams. He had struggled against the Rams historically, but the last two games against the Rams, he's kind of come out of his funk. He had, how many interceptions did he have in this game? He had like 2 interceptions in the Week 16 game, and they made a late game comeback to win against the Rams, and he had 21.5 DraftKings points. He was looking like a complete dud before that fourth quarter comeback that he had, and then absolutely just dominated the Rams in the championship round, and now faces off against the Patriots. So in that game against the Rams, that last game, just 346 yards, 3 touchdowns. I was kind of taking the opposite direction with Sam Darnold, thinking that he was going to continue to struggle against the Rams, and he absolutely came out of that. Shows that he can win a big game, and put a lot of critics to sleep with it. But there's still that Sam Darnold out there that would struggle in a big game, and he's facing probably looking at these other defenses that he's faced, I would put the Patriots as the toughest defense since Minnesota that they've faced. So since Week 13, they haven't really faced a difficult defense. And I'm looking down even further. Oh, okay. So Houston was a difficult defense. So Houston and Minnesota are the most difficult defenses that he faced. And versus Houston, he had 10 DraftKings points. Versus Minnesota, he had 4.1 DraftKings points. So gives you a little bit of an idea of Sam Darnold, how he performs against those upper tier defenses. Kenneth Walker, I'm more interested in Walker in the passing game in this one. The Patriots have the best run defense in the league when they're fully healthy, and they got Milton Williams back in there. Milton Williams in his second Super Bowl in a row. I believe he was on the Eagles roster last year. So he is a run stuffer. He's been their, the primary, cog in that run game, and he's healthy. And, Kenneth Walker is going to struggle running the ball against these guys. Where Kenneth Walker is going to make an impact is going to be in the passing game. Let's see what we can get here for. Let's see. So looking at the analysis by Rich Rebar over at Sharp Football Analysis, he put in a stat, 24% of receptions allowed by New England have gone to running backs, which is the third highest total in the league. So Kenneth Walker has been a stud in the running game these last few weeks. 4 targets for 49 yards versus the Rams, 3 for 29 yards versus the San Francisco 49ers. That was the game that Charbonnet went down. He had 4 for 36. 3 for 64. You can look and you just see these passing games that Kenneth Walker has had. I think that with the ability of the Patriots, with their corners both being highly rated corners in Christian Gonzalez and Carlton Davis, the Seahawks are going to struggle to throw the ball deep on a consistent basis. Obviously they'll be moving around Jackson Smith-Njigba throughout the game, but really, as far as out wide receivers, the only other noteworthy out wide receiver that the Seahawks have is Rashid Shaheed. So, we got Cooper Kupp in there. He's a slot receiver, and we got JSN, the main outside receiver, but he moves around a lot. I think in this game, they're going to move him all over the place like they did against the Rams with Jackson Smith-Njigba. But if they're able to slow him down with those corners, then we could see, like one of those games like I talked about, like with a 4.3 points that they had He exploded versus Houston, so he's capable of putting up a big game versus Houston. He definitely has the highest floor, but him and what's his face? Raheed Shaheed are going to be the main outside guys. Raheed Shaheed is going to be interesting this week. He's going to have like no ownership. Let me double check that. I want to see what his ownership is going to be this week. See what they're projecting him at. Because I like Rashid Shaheed this week as a sneaky guy, especially if he's going to be lower owned. Just because like the guy hasn't caught a touchdown all season, and they've had 2 weeks to game plan and get him involved with the understanding that the Patriots are probably going to be focused in on Jackson Smith-Njigba. So let's see what kind of ownership Rashid Shaheed is going to have this week. I'm seeing him under 20%, which is great because if he ends up, being the guy that they turn to if Jackson Smith-Njigba is getting double coverage, or if he's getting, like shut down by Gonzalez or something like that, Rashid Shaheed is the guy that we're going to see maybe step up along with Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp has been that guy the last few weeks. He had a good game last week against the Rams. He ended up with 13.6 DraftKings points, but you see his targets going up, 5 targets and 6 targets the last 2 weeks, 5 receptions and 4 receptions, over double-digit DraftKings points in each of those games. Cooper Kupp, also a former Super Bowl MVP on top of it. So, he's definitely capable of stepping up in a big game like this. Let's see. I'm going to take a look. I want to take a look at the snap counts for Cooper Kupp. I'm going to go over here to Football Guys. They do a really cool page where you can get all this information. Going to go to the Seahawks. And let's check out and see what his snap count was. Going down to, let's see, wide receivers. And we see Rashid Shaheed last week, 57% for Shaheed, 78% for Kupp, 82% for Smith-Njigba. Njigba and Kupp are the guys that are on the field all the time, whereas Shaheed is a guy that they mix in. 57%, though, is significant. Like, that's the second highest snap count of the season. His biggest one was in week 15, where he had 68%. So that was his biggest snap count since that week 15 game. And I do think that Shaheed is getting more, he's getting more comfortable in this offense, and I think that the offense is getting more comfortable with him. And I do think that at some point Shaheed is gonna have a breakout game, and what better game to do it than in the Super Bowl. Offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak obviously has a history with Shaheed from when he was the OC on the Saints. So they brought in Shaheed for a reason. He's been doing really well on special teams, but the passing game so far, he has not done a whole lot. So while we're here, let's take a look at the snap counts for the Patriots, because we got kind of a hodgepodge of receivers here on the Patriots. We got Kayshon Boutte, 63%. He's been pretty consistent around that 60 to 70 range. Last week, they did not use the receivers as much just because they were in a blizzard. So maybe we can scratch off last week. If we're looking at Mac Hollins, though, even last week, he had a significant snap count with 61%. He had more than Diggs, it looks like. I don't know if I'm buying that snap count on Diggs at 47%. If we're looking at the rest of the season, though, we see like Diggs kind of floats around that that 60%, mid 60% range when he's getting the heaviest usage, which he probably will be in this game. If we're looking at Mac Hollins, he was in that 70-80% range, so he's significantly on the field. And same with Kayshon Boutte. Boutte's on 75 to 80%. So I think Boutte, Diggs, and Hollins are going to be the primary receivers, obviously. If you want to get sneaky, you got guys like Kyle Williams. I do think that they're going to have to make some shot plays in this one. The problem with Drake Maye's matchup, he loves to throw the ball deep, but he throws the ball deep. He holds on to the ball like too long. And if he's got a weak spot in the offensive line, the Seattle pass rush is going to be able to take advantage of that. And, he might struggle to get those deep shots out. So he's going to have to play that kind of, like freelancing type of offense where he's scrambling out of a pressure situation, and he launches it downfield to buy himself more time, and then launches it downfield, maybe hits like Boutte or Kyle Williams or one of these guys. And they might scheme up a couple of those deep shots to Kyle Williams, just knowing that Boutte and Hollins and Diggs are going to be the guys that have the most coverage on them. But, if they can work Kyle Williams into some of those packages and, get him a couple clean shots, then maybe Kyle Williams can make an impact in this game. DeMario Douglas, the Seahawks have been weaker in the middle of the field. Let me check that real quick. So, according to Rich Rebar, going back to Rich Rebar on this one, slot receivers, let's see, the Seahawks have allowed the 12th most yards per target. So it's basically, it's not great, but it's probably the weakest spot against this Seahawks defense that you're going to find, apart from tight ends. Tight ends might be the weakest spot. Both these teams, by the way, have allowed like heavy targets and receptions to the tight end position. I think both are top 10 in allowing receptions to the tight end position. So keep that in mind. But yeah, with DeMario Douglas, less interested in him than I am in Kyle Williams, because I think that Williams is obviously the higher upside guy. We saw DeMario Douglas have a couple good games, but like if we can get a decent snap share from Williams and he fits more what Drake Maye likes to do in launching the ball deep, then we could see something interesting out of Kyle Williams this week. Let's see. Going to go back over to DraftKings. Kind of got off track there a little bit. Let's see. So Ramondre Stevenson in a very similar situation as Walker. With Walker, he doesn't have a whole lot of competition in that backfield since Charbonnet went down. He's only got George Halani. With Ramondre Stevenson, he's kind of taken off in the back half of the year and through the playoffs. They've made him basically the primary running back pretty much since they came out of the bye. And then you've seen him kind of take off, 27 points here, 17 points down there, 38 points, 15 points, 12 points, and 7 points. He's been used a lot in the passing game. And that's where I like Ramondre Stevenson this week, with the Seahawks being more vulnerable to pass-catching backs than they are to running backs. They're the best team, one of the best run defenses in the league against running backs, but they are vulnerable to pass-catching backs. Let's see. Kenneth Walker, like I said, the last couple of weeks, he just kind of exploded without Charbonnet in there. With Stephon Diggs, not a whole lot to like for Stephon Diggs. He's going to have a difficult matchup. I think if I'm going with an inside receiver, it's going to be more Hunter Henry, but we can work Diggs into some lineups. We're going to want to have exposure to him at least. You're not going to really want to fade any of these potential pass catchers, because it could be a low scoring game. And if it's a low-scoring game, then all it's going to take is a guy like Stephon Diggs to get like 2 receptions for 70 yards and a touchdown to get into an optimal lineup. So Diggs, I don't think you want to fade Diggs outright. I think you want to mix and match these receivers just because they spread the ball around so much, and it's difficult to kind of pinpoint where who's going to benefit the most. Hunter Henry has a good matchup against Seattle. Like I said, Seattle is giving up, I'll get you the exact number. Yeah, they're giving up 6 receptions a game to the tight end position, which is like the bottom 5 in the league. So good matchup there for Hunter Henry. The problem with Hunter Henry is he doesn't get any usage. He gets targeted a lot in the red zone. I think I saw he was like a 30% target rate, 30+% target rate in the red zone, which is the highest in the league, at least for tight ends. And the problem is he doesn't get targeted anywhere else on the field. And I've tried to go to him the last couple weeks and he hasn't delivered, but that's no reason to get off of him in a matchup like this. We want to mix in all these guys. Like I said, we don't know who they're going to turn to. We see it with these offenses by McDaniels in these Josh McDaniels in these Super Bowls is these random guys will end up having big games. And that when you give these teams a couple weeks to scheme, they're going to scheme in guys that you're not expecting. And I'm not saying go super thin when you're trying to pick players to put into your lineups, but don't overlook those guys that get usage, that have decent snap counts, like maybe in that 20 to 30 range, like I mentioned with Kyle Williams. Don't shy away from those types of guys, sprinkling them into your lineups, because those guys make big impacts in the Super Bowl. If I'm looking at previous Josh McDaniel games, let's see, guys that have done the best are guys like Wes Welker, Randy Moss, obviously. 2014, we had Julian Edelman had 29 DraftKings points. Shane Vereen had 18.7 DraftKings points. So Shane Vereen, another one of those pass catching backs that they incorporated heavily into the offense. They did it again with James White on a few occasions. James White had 44.9 DraftKings points in the 2016 Super Bowl against the Falcons. Obviously, they were playing from behind in that game. White also made an impact in the 2017 Super Bowl. He had 14.6 DraftKings points against the Eagles. They were playing from behind in that game too, and they got destroyed by my Eagles in that game. And, James White, he didn't end up making it into the optimal, but just shows you that they do target these running backs in these Josh McDaniels offenses in these big games. Rex Burkhead, another guy. There was one Super Bowl that I saw with Rex Burkhead where he made an impact. Maybe he scored a touchdown, but Burkhead, I think, has scored like maybe 1 or 2 touchdowns in these Super Bowls with Josh McDaniels. So you got these running backs, these secondary running backs. In the case of Ramondre, he's the main running back who's catching passes. Travion Henderson could be interesting if they decide to kind of switch up the schemes that he's involved in, or the packages he's involved in, to throw off the Seahawks if they're expecting it to be a run play. Most teams know that it's going to be a run play when Travion Henderson's in, but if they switch it up a little bit and throw it to him, or set him up on a weird play. He's had targets early in the season. He had like 6 in week 9, 5 in week 11, 4 and 4 and 12 and 13. And then he got in the doghouse somehow. When he came back from the bye week, much less usage. He did have a decent game against Miami. He had 17.3 DraftKings points in that one, but they were winning by 38 points. And he did get a decent amount of usage in that Houston game. He had 12 rush attempts, but Ramondre Stevenson got his eye poked in that game, and he missed half the game. And I know that because I had a ton of Ramondre Stevenson in that game too. And if we're looking at Stevenson, that Houston game, he ended up with 12 DraftKings points. So scrolling down even further, we got Kayshon Boutte. If the Patriots are going to win this game, they're going to have to play the game that works best for them, and that's going to be the scrambling ability of Drake Maye. He's going to have to be involved. It's going to have to be probably a bunch of passes to the middle of the field to Ramondre and to Hunter Henry, and he's going to have to be successful in a couple of these deep connections with guys like Kayshon Boutte, Kyle Williams, or Mac Hollins. But all those guys are going to be guys that we want to sprinkle into our lineups. I don't think we want to have multiples of those guys, but I do think that we want to have exposure to those guys in our lineups for sure. Jason Myers is going to be important too. The Patriots are like one of the top defenses in the league. They have been struggling as far as defending teams in the red zone, and the Seahawks have been really good in the red zone. But if they're able to come alive in this one, that defense, and slow down the Patriots, then we could see a decent amount of opportunities for Myers. He's been a little bit quiet in the playoffs from what we're used to. We see these monster games, 24 DraftKings points, 19, 13, 15, 15. Let's see what he does against the best defenses. Minnesota, he had 19 DraftKings points. Against Houston, he had 10. So we can probably pencil in Myers for double-digit DraftKings points in this one and see what it does if you plug it into an optimizer. I'd throw Myers at 10 DraftKings points and see what the optimizer does with him. But I like working him in as a rotational piece too to my lineups. Cooper Kupp, talked about him already. With Smith-Njigba, if they're able to shut down Smith-Njigba, if you end up going away from Smith-Njigba in your lineup, you're going to want to have Kupp. You're going to want to have Rashid, one of those guys, or maybe both. Barner would be another guy that you would want to get exposure to if you're fading Smith-Njigba. Borregales, rookie kicker, and he's had some decent games, definitely capable of getting double-digit points. And the Patriots struggle in the red zone, and if they end up getting to like a point where like they get shut down by Seattle's defense after a big drive, we could see a few 50-point bombs by Borregales. So I'm keeping both these kickers obviously in my player pool. I'm going to want to have more exposure than the field to each one of those guys. I don't know if I'm going to play them both in the same lineup, but you could definitely do that. We're talking about two top end defenses and two quarterbacks who have struggled against top end defenses here. We got AJ Barner, same situation as Hunter Henry. The receptions given up by the Patriots to the tight end position have been the best matchup, basically for the Seahawks side. And AJ Barner, he's very hit or miss. I've tried using him a few times recently, and he's just dudded out completely. But he's not a guy that we want to forget about. We want to sprinkle him into our lineups. Seahawks defense. Both these defenses are in play. Drake Maye has been getting sacked left and right. They've got that weak spot in the offensive line with that rookie left tackle. So they're going to be vulnerable to the Seahawks defense, sacking them, intercepting them, just whatever. He's been fumbling left and right too. Let's look at the last couple games when he's been facing off against these difficult defenses. We saw in, let's see, is it showing us his sacks? It's not even showing us how many sacks he had. Let me look at a situation here. Let's go into Pro Football Reference real quick. I'm going to take a look at Drake Maye. Let that come up for us. We're going to go into his game logs, check out career, and we're going to go into the playoffs and look at his last few playoff games. We'll look at week 18, too. Bill Campbell made his return from injury. So if we see in the game versus the Chargers, he had 1 interception. He was sacked 5 times, and he had 2 fumbles. In the game versus Houston, he had 1 interception. He got 3 in that one. Strong defenses. 5 sacks in that one. 5 sacks each of the play, and he had 4 fumbles versus the Texans, and he lost 2 of those. And then he had no interceptions versus Denver. Just had the sacks versus Denver. He wasn't fumbling. He didn't turn over the ball against Denver, so he did better in that game. But Drake Maye is definitely vulnerable to a defense like the Seahawks, so leave them in your player pool. Shahid, I talked about, he's dangerous, in the return game as well. So you can always stack him for those double points with the correlated stack with the Seahawks defense. Patriots defense is in play too. Sam Darnold is definitely no stranger to choking in these types of games. Henderson, I talked about. Matt Collins, I like his snap counts, and he was getting targeted heavily before he got hurt. He got injured, and in those 2 games before he got injured, he had 9 targets. He had 8 targets. So big targets for Matt Collins. He had a game with 10 targets, 5 targets, 6 targets. Don't sleep on Matt Collins. I like him a lot this week, and he's going to be interesting for us. Demario Douglas, not as high in Demario Douglas. He's he had a touchdown a couple weeks ago and still only managed 11.6 DraftKings points. So unless you're betting on him in a parlay or something like that, I don't really see it from a DFS perspective. But that being said, weaker versus the slot, just not weak enough for me. But Douglas, leave him in your player pool, but don't feel like you got to force him in. Kyle Williams, talked about him. Helani, I like Helani as a potential, play from behind guy. If the Seahawks are playing from behind and they need to use Helani in the passing game more, don't be surprised if Helani gets a decent amount of targets in this one. He did get 4 targets last week. That's pretty significant. He had 6.1 DraftKings points, but he could be, if he takes on that Zach Charbonnet role, it's going to piss a lot of Kenneth Walker owners off if he ends up getting that work in the red zone and the passing situations in the red zone. Austin Hooper, same situation as Hunter Henry. Let's check out and see what kind of snap counts he's getting. Going down to tight end, 41% for Hooper, 69% for Hunter Henry. So he does get used. And it could be one of those guys in a high leverage situation where they scheme him open in the end zone and he gets a touchdown, and he's pretty cheap at 2K. So you can definitely consider Hooper. Bobo had a touchdown last week, still only had 8.7 DraftKings points, and now he is 1,600. Arroyo, I would be interested in Arroyo if he plays, because he's $1,200 for one of these tight ends with a decent matchup. He's got more athletic ability. We saw him get 10.9 DraftKings points. That 10.9 DraftKings points is much more useful for a guy that's 1,200 than a guy that's like 2,000-3,000. Let's see. Derek Young, don't see much there. Saubert would be, Kism. I see this guy like in these Patriots games that I've been watching recently. I've seen this guy pop up a few times, but he did have 12 DraftKings points a few weeks ago. He's 800, so keep him in mind as a value guy. He's the perfect, like, generic guy that McDaniels would scheme a touchdown to. Saubert on the tight end on the Seahawks, he's a good value here, especially if Arroyo doesn't play. If Arroyo does play, I don't know how much Saubert will get used. Let's go check out the snap counts. for Seattle and get an idea there. Going down to tight end, I see Barner with 96%. Saubert last week had 57% snap count. And then, Arroyo was out last week. So we didn't see him there. Share this over. Looking at the football guys' snap counts, you can see Saubert had a 57% snap count behind A.J. Barner. And Velus Jones, if they decide to use him in any gadgety plays, we saw him get 6 attempts versus San Francisco, and then he kind of fell off a cliff. So, we got to check and see if he's even going to be active. But he's 200 if he is active. And the other $200 guy that I think is interesting if he's active, keep an eye on the inactives, but that's Trent Sherfield. Sherfield's the type of guy, he's on the Patriots. Patriots. And he's the type of guy that I could see get an opportunity by Josh McDaniels. He's the type of receiver that Josh McDaniels likes. So just keep him in mind if you're desperate, and make sure that he's playing first. So let's go into the build. Smith-Njigba, going to be the most popular. Just a reminder again, hit that like button. Get me to 100 likes so I can put my favorite captain in the comments section. Also help me get to 2,800 subscribers. I'm just about 2,700 right now. So I need 100. I want to get that 100 before we get into the end of the season here. And make sure to sign up for that weekly subscription if you just want access to the Super Bowl. I advise signing up for the monthly. Get it while it's cheap. We don't have enough contributors to raise the price on it right now. But once we get more contributors on board, we're going to be raising the subscription cost on the membership. So make sure to lock in the the lower subscription costs now. But definitely take advantage of at the very least sign up for a weekly membership and get access to all the Super Bowl information. Let's see. Subscribe to the YouTube page as well. I said that already. All right, let's get Smith-Njigba in the captain spot. Most people are going to have him. He's going to be the highest owned captain on the slate, which is exactly why I don't want to use him in the captain. Let's get Maye in there, highest floor. And I'm going to go with Stevenson. I think Stevenson's got a higher floor than Kenneth Walker in this one, although I like both of those guys. And if I'm looking for value, let's get Mac Hollins in there. I got Maye in there already, so it's good to get him with the receiving option. So let's try to we can't plug in Walker. Let's get Henry in, see where that leaves us. That's going to leave us at 2,200. If we don't have Walker in there, maybe we put in Helani in this build. At least this was 6,800. At least that way we got options like Booty, Myers, Cup, Borregales, all sorts of guys there. Barner, just the whole field basically. All these guys under 6K are going to be good values here. These are all good options, and it's going to make it difficult to build our lineups, but it's going to give us a lot of mix and matching. Let's swap out Smith-Njigba with Maye. He should be popular as well. That's going to leave us with 7K. That leaves us at least with Hunter Henry as an option. So we got Hollins, we got Maye to Hollins and Hunter Henry, running it back with Njigba and Helani, and then we also got Stevenson in there, preferably in the passing game, racking up PPR points and giving our captain Drake Maye more points there. So that builds itself right there, pretty much. You could swap Hunter Henry out with Booty too if you wanted to. All right, so let's go into something a little bit more interesting. Most of the volume of the captain ownership is going to be on Smith-Njigba, Drake Maye, and Kenneth Walker. Everybody else is basically going to be under 10%. So if you think that the Patriots defense might be a little overrated from facing like easier competition, maybe we get Sam Darnold in that captain spot. I don't think that the Patriots defense is overrated, but I do think that their run defense is probably going to be better than their pass defense. So let's get Darnold in there as the captain. Let's get Smith-Njigba because we're going to need Smith-Njigba for Darnold to have a decent game. And fortunately, we got Cooper Kupp and Raheed Shaheed cheap. So let's put Shaheed in there. So we got Darnold, Smith-Njigba, and Shaheed, and we want to run it back. So let's look at seeing if we can get Drake Maye in there and make it make sense. Maybe in this build, let's get Matt Collins in there because he's cheap. That leaves us with 3,400. We could put Kyle Williams in this build. We could put George Halani. We could get Hooper, Bobo, Arroyo if he plays. Like, we got a lot of options here. I like the way that builds, and it gives us Darnold in the captain spot. He's capable. He's just as capable of putting up a big game. We've used him before in the captain where he came through for us. He's just as capable of putting up a big game as he is in putting up a dud. So keep that in mind with Darnold. Likely that they would be resorting more to the short passing game. So, maybe we take out Rashid Shaheed and maybe put Cooper Kupp in there. Leaves us with 2,400. Still got Halani as an option. Austin Hooper, guys like that. So you see where that value, why I talked about these value guys, because when we get in these situations, we're going to want to have an ability to plug in one of these guys that's like under 2K. Let's clear that out. And let's go with a Ramondre Stevenson captain build. Stevenson, I think, is going to be heavily used in the passing game in this one. And if they end up having any sort of success in just pounding the ball up the middle against Seattle, maybe they get in scoring position, maybe they get on the 1 yard line and Stevenson's able to hammer it in. But there's plenty of scenarios where Stevenson can pay off as a captain. I want the floor guys in here too, so I'm going to put Maye and Njigba in there. And let's see. So I got Drake Maye, Jackson Smith-Njigba. I'm going to go with Halani again in this one because I'm going to project that if Stevenson's in the captain, maybe they're playing with the lead here. And, Drake Maye is still going to get his floor points, like he gets 15, 17, 19, 15, that if Darnold is struggling against this Pats defense, then, that's going to be enough for Maye to get in the optimal. So let's put the Patriots defense. Let's say that scenario plays out. That's going to leave us with enough salary to get guys like Henry, Booty, Myers, Kupp, Borregales in there as well. And, it comes together pretty nicely. If we swap out Halani and let's say we want to put in a guy like, let's put in Shaheed. Leaves us with 6K. 6K, we can get Booty, we can get Myers, we get Kupp, Borregales. Plenty of options. And you can do the same thing if you like Walker better. You can throw Walker in that captain spot. We got Seahawks D, we got Henderson. Plenty of options there. Matt Collins is the best value on the slate. 3,600 is way too cheap for Matt Collins. The more I go through these lineups, it's just like he's a steal at 3,600. Hopefully the rest of the field doesn't realize that. Let me check and see what his ownership is. Let's see. Matt Collins, we're looking at total ownership at 36%. So let's do something sneaky here. Everybody else is going to be looking at Matt Collins in the flex. So let's put Matt Collins in the captain. Let's say he gets 10 targets in this one. And he's able to break off a couple long ones. So let's put Matt Collins in there. Let's get Drake Maye. Let's get Smith-Njigba. And let's get Stevenson as well. We're left with 6,600 per remaining player. If I got Mac Hollins in there, let's get Kenneth Walker in there. And that leaves us with 3,400. We can get in Kyle Williams, George Halani in that type of build. Let's say we want to use Darnold instead. Halani, Bobo, leaves us with a few options there. If I wanted to double stack May, let's double stack him with Hunter Henry. So we got Drake Maye to Hunter Henry and Mac Hollins, and we got Stevenson in there. Leaves us with 6,200. I hate that range with this just scrubby backup quarterbacks. I'd want to get a Seattle guy in here, but if I put in, you can put in a guy like Myers. That leaves us with 800 on the table. You get in Cup. You can get in Barner. You got all the options there. You got Shaheed as an option there. Plenty of ways to go. If you wanted to swap out Henry for Diggs, then that puts us in a little bit of a worse spot, because then we're losing options like Barner. We can get Shaheed in this build, in the Seahawks D or the Pats D. We got Henderson as an option. So, it's an interesting way to go. Don't rule out anything for the Super Bowl, and make sure you have fun with it. Make sure you're checking out sportnuggets.com and following up on the news over there to figure out these players that I mentioned at the top of the show, which ones are going to be active on game day, and try to figure out more of these players that we want to put in the player pool. And then also subscribe over at sportnuggets.com to the premium service so that you can get on board with the breakdown in the write-up and the core plays when those come out. So make sure to go subscribe over there. Weekly subscription is under $20. Take advantage of that. It's under $20. I know a lot more sources out there that are charging a lot more than $20 for their Super Bowl content. So, make sure to take advantage of that. And, we've been on a good tear at the end of the year. I'm missing the 2-game slates already. 2-game slates, we were on fire. I'm going to incorporate 2-game slates more into my content, those afternoon slates or something like that, more into my content next year, just because they had so much success with it. We're crushing the 2-game slates this year. I won a bunch of money off of it. A bunch of my members, we were all playing with the same cores, and those cores were going off. It started with Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving was a 3-day slate, but Thanksgiving, we started off with just a monster freaking week for Thanksgiving. And then, it continued throughout the rest of the season. We had cores successful ever since we basically went premium, and had at least one core a week hit, except for last week where we only had 2 games, and I was going more heavily on that Denver game, and then we got that surprise blizzard, which did not help things. On top of Stidham just looking like dog shit, like just absolute dog shit. But we had the right idea with it. That's been our process throughout the entire season with these 2-game slates. Target the lesser owned game and hope it hits, and then be well positioned when that does hit. Same with the same situation here with the showdown slate. I'll probably lean more towards the Patriots, just because all the narrative is against the Patriots, and I don't think that the Seahawks are that much better than the Patriots. I do think that they're the better team, but I do think that the Patriots are a well-coached team. They got enough weapons on the team, and they're a good enough team that they put a chip on their shoulder. With all this talk about the Seahawks being the dominant team, then we could see some interesting results. So good luck, guys. Hit the subscribe on the YouTube, subscribe over on sportnuggets.com, and hit the like button. And I'll try to get another show up before the weekend. I'll at least have an underdog video up. We've been hitting on those. I had to stop doing my underdog videos because TikTok kept flagging me. Like you've been, you cost your viewers like a couple of the hits towards the end of the season. We had one that hit in the what do you call it? In the Discord that I put in the Discord, we had a 32-1 hit, and then we had another 30-something to 1 hit. I think I only got that up on YouTube because YouTube doesn't randomly flag and take down sport picks content. Like I see content all over TikTok with guys putting their picks up and promoting their their promo codes and everything. And for whatever reason, I just can't get a video up on TikTok the last few weeks. But I'll try it again. But at the very least, we'll have it on YouTube. So keep an eye there, and let's keep crushing it.